Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between WhiteRa and Tarson here on Metalopolis. We have Tarson spawning as the red Terran player at the 6 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we have WhiteRa or Duckload Ra spawning as the blue Protoss. So Protoss versus Terran here on Metalopolis. If you have not gone to the Blizzard websites already, Blizzard recently released new numbers concerning the balancing act and the racial matchups. And pretty surprisingly, or no surprise to me, they've been finding that on the American servers and the European servers the American servers and the Asian servers and the North American servers, wow, I can't even say that slow. North America and Asian servers, Protoss has been getting a significant lead, about 55 to 57% chance of winning compared to other racial matchups. So it does look like that Protoss is getting stronger and stronger as more and more strategies are being hammered out, and I believe it's going to be up to Blizzard to try to make some of those changes. I believe also that Terran players need to start working in a little bit more tech as well, as siege tanks and Thors are now being used a little bit more aggressively, in addition to Hellions. Hellions are one of those units that can also be used to mineral dump as well, and since a lot of Protoss players do not currently go Void Rays, Hellions would be a very, very strong option, especially in trying to counter slow-moving High Templars, and also Zealots, as Zealots are usually the mineral dump for Protoss players. Anyways, back to this game, we have WhiteRa now gonna go ahead and start scouting in the counterclockwise direction. We'll be able to come across this expansion here, or this location here, and quickly find that it is not the starting location. Meanwhile, into the base of Tarson we go, and Tarson currently getting one refinery and also has one barracks in play. So as soon as this barracks is in play, we should most likely get an upgrade to an orbital command, and I'm curious to see if we will get a tech lab or if we will go for an earlier factory. Factory play seems to be very, very popular now for Terran players, as Terran players like to get that factory for that early Thor. The early Thor, a very, very strong counterpart, or a strong way to try to break through the front door of a Protoss player, that massive unit able to walk through that force field, and that a lot of Protoss players have been using, trying to focus a lot on sentries. And then because they go a little bit more sentry heavy of a build, they do not have enough stalkers to try to hold anything off. One probe trying to walk up that ramp, however, will not be able to, as this probe now runs away. That probe is a little bit faster than that Marine. Marine may be able to get off one more shot. No, will not be able to, as the probe finally backs off once again. So two Marines now, one on the high ground, one on the low ground, as they guard this front door location. We now see a factory coming into play. We now see a factory coming into play, and also a second refinery coming in. So depending on what exactly is built next, perhaps a starport or an armory, we should see the strategy coming in from Tarson. I cannot imagine that he would go for a starport just quite yet. He has not scouted out his opponent. He may have a good idea that WhiteRa has spawned over here, and based upon the timing of that one probe. So if he does go for a starport, that would be more of a reactionary method in order to figure out what exactly, in order to do some Banshee play, and it is going to be a starport. So a starport now being placed down, one Hellion will be trained. I believe this factory will add on a tech lab and then lift off, and that starport will be completed just in time. Yeah, 50 units of time to build for a starport, 25 units of time to add on a tech lab, as now WhiteRa going into a 2-gate build with the robotics facility. So it's going to be a 2-gate into a robo bay. Most likely we'll get an observer as well. There's that tech lab that I was talking about earlier, and a lot of Marines on this front door. The Marines there to try to protect against if there's any early aggression with Void Rays, and also looking at that choke point. An early Hellion getting the scouting probe on the Zelnaga Watchtower, now trying to move out, and now comes a Stalker as well. So a Stalker now moving out. Will that Hellion be able to get up that ramp? If it's able to get up that ramp, oh, perfect force field right there. Then the Hellion could have at least fired and did some damage back towards that sentry. I actually believe the Sentry, the Sentry does not have a faster attack, or does not have a higher DPS compared to the Hellion, just slightly slower, as that Hellion tries to move in, tries to sneak by, will not be able to, as two Sentries and now one Stalker move out. We should be seeing a Banshee now coming in. So yes, one Banshee coming in, and also getting a reactor on the factory. So this may be a Banshee, no cloaking research, into a medevac and 4 double Hellion drop into the base. We also see a command center now being placed in by Tarson, and now in come these Marines. Marines see the little bit of a flicker underneath that observer and want to shoot that observer out of the sky. Will he be able to get a scanner sweep off? No, able to get the scanner sweep. There we go. Just as it tries to fly back over that crevice there. A lot of players have been asking me, is it worth it to use a scanner sweep in order to try to take down an observer? I believe it is, as an observer cost 100 gas, so 100 gas, very, very much worth it. And you also deny any scouting information. Now in comes this Banshee. Banshee now trying to come into play. However, now two Stalkers will be able to get off a lot of free hits onto that Banshee. The Banshee will not get shot down. However, it does need to be repaired, now down to 70 hit points over 140. As those Banshees now deciding to move back once again, we now see the Marines being trained up here, and we have a Raven coming into play. SCV is now coming off the mineral line in order to repair that one Banshee. That Banshee is there for pure DPS now. It will not be able to get a lot of harassment onto these probes, as we have two Stalkers in this position. Two Stalkers more than enough to try to handle that one Banshee. Banshee now trying to fly around once again. We do have one Raven now in the air, and the Raven perhaps trying to look for that observer. Will it be able to find it? There is that one observer, and now that Banshee moving out and trying to take down this one Stalker. Stalker down to 8 hit points there as this observer now moves its way to the north. Will it be able to get sight of that Banshee? Banshee now once again down to 80 hit points. Very, very low, and now I believe that the Marines and with that Raven should be able to get sight onto this one observer and then shoot it out of the sky once again. We are going now into a massive, more ground army, so it's going to be Marines finally getting a tech lab for that combat shield as this Banshee continues to wander around the map trying to get more and more information. However, WhiteRa now getting that robotics bay will be able to start training up Colossi in just a second. One observer now making its way in. Marines trying to get underneath. However, I believe Tarson should be able to get sight. No, not dealing with that one observer. Still not quite sure why he is not. Marines trying to get underneath it. Will be able to get sight. However, that observer able to just barely pull out, even though it has a very, very slow movement speed. The same movement speed as a Thor. As this observer now tries to squeeze away that Raven, will be able to cut it off, and down goes that one observer. So two observers, 200 gas lost. 100 minerals lost in terms of those resources there. So yeah, you can see the units lost count, and WhiteRa now no longer able to fight in the dark, or now being forced to fight in the dark. However, the Banshee has been shot down as well. So WhiteRa taking down that Banshee, and now a new fresh observer coming in. So WhiteRa spending a lot of gas on these observers and spending a lot of resources in order to gain sight. Production wise, we still do not have the combat shield, I believe. Yeah, no combat shield and only stim pack. The one Raven does have enough energy for 1 point defense drone. However, it will not be able to stop the Colossi attack, and with only one Banshee in the air, the siege tanks need to siege up and then be trying to force these Stalkers and Zealots to engage. However, there are also a lot of Zealots on the ground. One siege tank now sieging up, a second siege tank now sieging up, trying to engage over here. Colossus now trying to pull in. Raven getting a lot of damage done there, and now we have WhiteRa with one observer. However, the Tarson is not taking down that observer there, as more production now coming in. Extended thermal lance range about halfway completed. Stim pack nearing completion as well, as these siege tanks are going to start playing hopscotch a little bit further and try to start dealing some damage against these stationary static buildings. Yeah, stationary static, I know, the same meaning. One siege tank finally sieging up here, and now going to engage. No point defense drone just quite yet. And 1 point defense drone finally in the air. Marines trying to deal damage towards those Zealots. However, Colossi is just standing tall, able to slice through so many of these units, and now using the stim pack in order to just try to pull back and constantly attack. Will it be enough to deal damage towards the rest of these units here? Marines now trying to run all the way home, and the Raven has been taken down. So Tarson now down to a 950 mineral army, as WhiteRa sitting on 1675. Things are looking very, very strong for WhiteRa indeed. Zealots do not have the leg upgrades, so those Zealots are moving at the same speed as these Marines and Marauders, all returning home. Production-wise, I do not... Oh, we have one medevac now coming into play. Concussive shell finally being researched. It is a little bit late as these units now try to return home. Army-wise, 2,000 versus 1,300, and Tarson, I believe, is going to end up losing this game. Now trying to siege up with that siege tank. Will be able to start blasting away at those Stalkers. Very, very far distance, using the full 13 range on that siege tank in order to try to deal more damage, making sure that the Colossus has to expose itself on the high ground in order to get any damage dealt. Production-wise, you can see another Colossus coming in, and now more and more stimming, trying to return home. We have one siege tank able to get some more blast in. Stalkers now coming in to deal damage as well. Two Colossus slicing through. SCVs coming off the mineral line. Will it be enough? I do not think so. As these Marauders continue to fight back and forth, Colossus still able to continue to slice through and use those extended thermal lance range against all of those units here. And Tarson not having any Vikings to try to deal with this army is going to lose out on this expansion, on this south expansion over here at the 6 o'clock location. Marauders now once again trying to engage. Siege tank just out of range, unable to attack anymore here. These Colossus will be able to finish off this expansion. Marines and Marauders trying to engage, want to deal damage against these Stalkers. However, the Colossus with such a long range is able to just offer a very, very high protection here. Now trying to stim in, trying to deal damage towards those Colossi. Colossus now taken down. A second Colossus may get taken down as well. There we go. And Marines and Marauders coming back in. However, a fresh army of Colossus and Stalkers quickly coming in and able to finish off the rest of this reinforcing army, and I believe that will be it. Tarson going to lose this expansion here, and now Marauders trying to make their way towards this one Colossus. Colossus fighting against a Marauder. Colossus able to back off, not affected by the slow of those concussive shells just because they are massive units. And now as these Stalkers walk up onto this ramp, this will be GG. SCV is not the counter towards Colossi. In fact, Colossi able to deal a lot of damage towards those units. And now that Colossus trying to pull back once again. Oh, unable to get that final shot off. However, Stalker is still in the base, able to finish off the last of those Marauders and perhaps that medevac as well. And Tarson says GG. So Tarson losing this game here on Metalopolis. I believe this is the first game I have in a set of games. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay between WhiteRa and Tarson here on Metalopolis.